Ajijic, Lake Chapala. Do people like living in Ajijic? Hi, I'm Bill the Geek, broadcasting not live from Mazatlan, Mexico. This is the Bill Dallas Lewis channel, and we make videos about the joys of living in Mexico. This guy should have a YouTube channel. When you see all of the places that he has visited, you will be shocked. He wants to start living here 6 months out of the year, and he's about to make a decision. In the middle of this video, he's going to tell you what is his #1 choice of the 20 or more cities in Mexico that he has visited. At the very end of the video, he just came back from Guanajuato. He took lots of pictures. He's going to tell us all about it, and we're going to share many of his photos. Hello, everybody. We're here with Mr. William Stoneman, and I think he has a lot to say about his research that he's doing and his visits to Mexico. Bill, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
I'm so glad I could.
Now, Bill, where exactly are you right now?
I live in Kingston, Tennessee, which is the east end of Tennessee down to Knoxville
Okay.
and near the Smoky Mountains.
Okay. And where have you lived in the United States?
I was born and raised on a farm in Michigan. I've lived in Ohio. I've lived in Pennsylvania. I've lived in Youngstown, Ohio. And let's see, from there I went on down to Miami, lived there for a year. I was a professional musician, and I had a Hawaiian floor show in Miami Beach. And I lived in Fort Lauderdale and got tired of Florida, and that got me back to Tennessee. They call us halfbacks. We go from Michigan to Miami and come halfback.
Oh, now I'm looking at my list of questions over here. Are you looking to move to Mexico?
We would like to find a December through April winter over. I love being in Tennessee, and I want to be here in the summertime. And I think that I don't think we're ready for a full-time move just yet. So it's going to be, for the next few years or so, just a winter over, like most of the people do. We don't want to stay any more than 180 days. And I looked into dual citizenship. I don't know if that's the right thing to do, but I just want to come and stay uh, through the winter months. Now
Okay.
we don't ever get bad weather in Tennessee until maybe the middle of January through February, and then other than that, it's springtime or summer.
Now, what are you doing for your research about Mexico as far as choosing a place to stay?
I pick out a map and look at it and point my finger. That's where we go.
Okay,
I
okay. Yes.
I'm not drawn to any one area. I do like to stay away from the coastlines because that's where all the tourists go. And I'd rather be inland and up in like Ajijic and places like that. It's a lot cooler and the weather is a little bit more moderate, and that area is a lot like East Tennessee. Our cold times here in East Tennessee is probably, in the 40s or so. We get into the 30s sometimes.
And where have you visited in Mexico?
Well, I've been to Puerto Vallarta, Sayulita, uh, Querétaro, Guadalajara, Ajijic, of course, Chapala, which I love. Let's see, what Guanajuato. We just got back from Guanajuato. Other than that, Mexico City, Huatuco, which is way down on the southern coast down there. I think that's about it. I've got Leon on the horizon, and I've got San Luis Potosi on the horizon, Dolores Hidalgo on the horizon. Those are all the places I haven't been yet. And fortunately, we're able to move, or we're able to go down there 3 or 4 times a year, so I can always pick someplace different. Now, my spouse has his company has a place in Hurriquilla, which is in the Querétaro area, and he has to go down there 2 or 3 times a year just to oversee their computer operations and that sort of stuff. So we go. He goes down there a lot. I try to go as much as I can.
So you've been all over Mexico.
Everywhere. Well, I've been to. I should say also. I'm not going to forget Cozumel, Cancun, and Playa del Carmen. I think I've been just about everywhere down there.
Okay, okay. And would be what would be your perfect living situation in Mexico? Population, climate, that whole thing.
Ajijic is at the top of the list. It really
And
is. Or Chapala, Lake Chapala area. Anywhere in there would be close. And I mean, it's 35, 40 minutes to Guadalajara Airport. While we were there, I learned how to ride the city buses, the regional buses, and the big buses, what is it, Primavera or Prima, whatever that bus line.
yeah,
So we,
Premier Plus, I think it is.
you're right. We learned how to do that. I've learned how to get from Ajijic to Guadalajara, and then from Guadalajara on to
Leave a comment. Tell us what you think. And if you like the video, click that like button. And hey, if you know a friend that could use this information, click that share button.
Hurriquilla, Mexico, and so I feel pretty comfortable riding the buses, and I highly, highly recommend them. It's really a convenient way to get around, and it's quite inexpensive, and it's a fun way to travel. You get to talk to people, and you don't have the hubbub of the trolley dollies on the airplanes shoving things up and down the aisle, and you got small seats and all that sort of stuff on the airplanes, where the big first class buses really are quite comfortable, very pleasant to ride.
Okay, okay. I've taken the buses many times up there, and they have like Wi-Fi much of the time, and then they have a bunch of
Right.
movies, situation comedies that you can watch. It's
Oh,
just,
sure.
it's incredible, and they're very comfortable.
Oh, it's a comfortable trip.
And how did you choose Mexico for your 6 months out of the year? Why not just move down to Florida or something like that?
Because it's horrible down there.
Okay,
I don't like. I've lived in Florida, and now it's just gotten to the point it's so ungodly expensive. Everything is expensive. I mean, you can't even find a modest apartment for $1,500 to $2,000 a month. I mean, it's so expensive. It's so touristy everywhere. I mean, the humidity is horrible. It's hot. The list could go on and on and on. There's too much traffic. It's not my place to be any longer.
and uh-huh.
Mexico's nice and warm, but they just don't have the humidity up in the highlands like they do in in,
Okay,
in Florida by the water.
okay. And what you've got Ajijic Chapala high on your list. I lived in Chapala for 3 or 4 years and Guadalajara. But what is it that puts them at the top of the list as far as population, things to do, climate?
I live in Kingston here. This is a very, very small town. Everybody asks me what it's like to be there, and I say it's like being in Mayberry. Everybody is friendly, everybody is social, and that's what I liked about Ajijic. We were there for this year in January, and I mean, people just went out of their way to be nice to you. and I'm learning Spanish, and I speak very poor Spanish, but somehow we all managed to get along and speak to each other and know what's going on. And everybody was just nice people. And I like the smaller community like Ajijic. I mean, going to Guadalajara, it was nice and everything, but there was too much traffic. It was very busy all the time. In colonial America, I think that's what they call that district there. There was lots of things to do and everything, but I just like to have some quiet and peace at times without the hubbub of traffic.
And what about the Ajijic Chapala climate?
Perfect. We were there in January, and as far as I was concerned, it was perfect. I couldn't ask for anything nicer. We didn't have any, we stayed in an Airbnb. There was
Hmm.
no air conditioning, there was no heat, and none of those things were necessary. And this was January when none of these things were necessary.
Okay.
Now, I don't know what it would be like to be there in July and August as far as the heat goes, but I don't really want to be there anyway during that time. I want to be back home.
Okay. Okay. For what it's worth, I've been there in July and August. It's still perfect. It's still
Is it?
very, still very cool. It's very cool in the evening, 62, 63 degrees. It's going to be 85, 90 in the day, but there's no humidity, so it still feels great. Unless you're a
Uh,
construction worker while working in the sun.
most work I do is probably cook.
Okay. Okay, now you just okay. I gotta ask this question. There are a lot of American Canadian musicians in the Ajijic Chapala area. Did you get to catch some of the music scenes going on there?
No. And the reason we didn't is because we go out to dinner about 6 o'clock to 6:30, and that's our evening's entertainment. Is going out to eat, enjoying a fine meal, and by 8:30 in the evening, I'm ready for bed. It's time to go home and go to bed.
You sound like
And
my kind of man. I like that. That's what I do. I like that.
now I'm up in the morning early at 6 o'clock to go walking down on the Malecon and enjoying that and watching the sunrise and that sort of stuff. But I guess all my life I've been a early to bed, early to rise person. When I was working as a musician, of course, that was 30 or 50 years ago. I mean, I was up. I went to work at 9 o'clock at night and got off at 3 in the morning. So that was a completely different lifestyle, and that's why I think I quit being a musician. I knew I had just a limited amount of talent that was never going to get me any more anywhere else. It's time to wrap it up and go be a homebody. Like that's what I really was supposed to be. I
Oh,
think back at the time when when I grew up on a farm, I thought, when I get old enough, I'm going to move to the big city where all the real people live.
uh-huh.
And after living there, I decided I'm going back to the farm.
Now you just came back from Guanajuato,
Yes,
uh, and you sent me pictures of that. Apparently, this trip didn't move Guanajuato up to the top of the list. Can you tell us about Guanajuato? Is it worth moving there to live, or is it worth visiting?
I don't know, it was worth visiting because we stayed in a hotel.
Hmm.
Now you got to understand, Guanajuato is in a great big valley, and there are mountains, and everything comes up around the center of El Centro. And you can be down there, and if you're walking, it can be terribly strenuous because everything is uphill or downhill, or 50 steps, or it was really quite strenuous for me. Whereas Ajijic was more of a flatter place to be, and I could get around better. I'm 75, so I I find myself as time goes by, I'm getting a little bit more inflexible with my physical attributes. I just need to be in a flatter area. Now, going there for 3 or 4 days, it was a whole lot of fun. The restaurants are out of this world. You can find everything from street tacos to fine dining, and it was just it was just wonderful. I loved it to visit. The weather was nice. The We were there. Let's see, what was it? It was May. We were there the 1st of May, and the weather was wonderful all the time. Now we did find it getting a little bit hot in the afternoon, but we'd always come back for a little siesta in the afternoon and turn on the air conditioning in the hotel and just, rest for a bit and then head out later in the day. Guanajuato seems to have a parade every day. I don't know what for. I think they have parades because it's Tuesday and we go out and we march and everybody comes down to the plaza. Everybody was friendly and never ever for a moment did I feel unsafe. Never.
Hmm.
It was just it was just an ideal it was just an ideal vacation to get away and see, a different culture. I see different things in different parts of Mexico. It's just different in the different areas. Not that anyone was bad or anyone was better, but it's just kind of different going from place to place. Now, you probably saw the same thing moving from Ajijic to Mazatlan. It was just fun. I just loved it. I would
Okay.
highly recommend anybody going there to stay.
Okay.
Now, as far as the hotel choices in Guanajuato, I mean, you can find a $25 hostel room a night, or you can spend $500 a night if you want to. That's the range of hotel accommodations. In Guanajuato, I saw one chain restaurant, and that was KFC in downtown Central. Downtown Central was KFC. That was it. There was nothing else in the chain restaurant category. Everything was local people, local vendors. That was nice to not see that. Right in the downtown El Centro Plaza area there where we were, I didn't see one chain hotel. There's no Holiday Inns and there's no, Best Westerns and all that sort of stuff. Those are on the outskirts of town, which are out quite a ways from the El Centro district. Now they have got lots of them out there. If somebody wants to go and they don't feel comfortable in that area downtown, that I mean, you can go out to the Holiday Inn and you can stay there if you want to go downtown. The Ubers and taxis are just so inexpensive. I really don't know why anybody would need a car in that city because it would be a lot cheaper and a lot less hassle to just call an Uber because we would call an Uber and they would be there in 3 minutes. A
Hmm.
taxi would be there. A taxi was everywhere. I mean, you just walked out, you'd walk down to the street and hail a cab. There was one right there always.
Hmm.
Some of the
Hmm.
cab drivers spoke a little English. We used our translator on our phone, and we got along just fine with everybody. And another little trick I learned to do too is if we want to go somewhere, I write it down on a piece of paper and then hand
Hmm.
it to them, and they can read it. And they we didn't have that problem with the language barrier. Now all of the Uber drivers they spoke a lot of English, but the taxi drivers seemed to be older people who were native people who probably didn't they just didn't speak that much English. To get to Guanajuato, you've got to fly into Leon Airport.
Hmm.
From there, you have to take a taxi from there into Guanajuato, which is about, I say a good 30 to 45-minute trip. Our
Hmm.
taxi ride from the airport to downtown Central was 550 pesos, which is what, that 25, 26,
Yes.
something like that.
Yes. Yes.
Uber, we took a taxi to downtown when we went back to the airport. When we had to leave, we took an Uber, and he charged us 380 pesos, so it was cheaper.
Like
And
16, $17.
right, right, the Uber was a whole lot less expensive, and he got us to the airport in 25 minutes. The Uber driver did. Now the taxi
Mhm.
driver took 45 minutes because he wouldn't get on the toll road and pay tolls. So he was going around back out in this neighborhood and that neighborhood and whatever to get us to Guanajuato. He got us there. It was okay, but next time we know we'll take, we'll use more of the Ubers. Of course, that was our first visit. We didn't know anything, so it was everything we did was a first time learning experience.
So what are you doing to work? This is my last question, I think, but what are you doing to work on your Spanish, and how has communication been? Because sometimes you'll send me a message, it'll have some Spanish in it, and so where are you with your Spanish? Are you working on it? What do you have to say about that?
I take a class every day in Spanish,
Oh.
and I use Duolingo, and
Hmm.
I've learned most of my Spanish from that, and the rest of it is just, I mean, I just practice. One thing that always happened, I try to when we go to Mexico, I try to practice my Spanish with the waiter and this in the staff and whatnot, and sometimes I say words and they look at me like, "What are you saying?" and
Uh-huh.
and
Uh-huh.
and then other times I'll speak to somebody and they know exactly what I'm saying. And I found out that most of the time when we try to speak Spanish to a waiter in a restaurant, they want to speak English. I'm trying to practice my Spanish and they're trying to practice their English. So
Okay.
it's kind of
Uh-huh.
a standoff there on that.
Okay.
But we manage. So
Okay.
we help each other. They'll say, well, how do you say, como se dia, how do you say this or how do you say that? And we share back and forth. But living in a smaller town like Ajijic or another small town, I'm sure if we were there for a long period of time, our Spanish would get better, our pronunciations would get better, and I'd lose some of my Tennessee accent when I'm down there because I think that goes into my Mexican. The Mexican culture is not used to listening to this white boy speaking with a southern accent when I'm trying to speak in Spanish.
Well, Mr. Stoneman, what would you like to share with people about visiting Mexico or picking a place to live in Mexico that I didn't bring up? What did I leave out?
Don't go down there expecting to be able to go to a store and get Miracle Whip. They don't have it.
Okay.
And so I read so many people saying, "Oh, I'm down here and they don't have this and they don't have that." I said, "Well, you come up here to the United States and you're not going to find anybody making menudo uh, in a restaurant. It's just not the way it is. You're in Mexico. You've got to adjust to their culture because they're not going to change it just for you." And I think some people, there are a lot of people, there are a lot of travelers that go to other countries and they embrace the culture. There are other people that go to countries and can't wait to get home because they didn't have a bottle of ketchup on the table. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So I mean, they're going to complain about everything from the time the sun comes up until I'm in a different time zone. I don't like this here, that sort of stuff. But anyway, I think it's all about attitude and to be thankful for what you have in life. And going to Mexico for me is the perfect choice.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And we're going to follow up with you once you make that move. Sounds like it's going to be to Chapala Ahi. But Bill Stoneman, thank you very much. And and we'll see you down the road after you make that move. Adios, amigo.
Bye now.
Thank you, Bill Stoneman, William Mustache Stoneman, I call him. What a bunch of information you shared with us today. We'll have to have you back once you settle into your Chapala Ajijic domain. In the meantime, hit that subscribe button. We have many more videos to come. I'm Bill the Geek. This is the Bill Dallas Lewis channel, and we'll see you in the next video.